Hello and welcome to another beautiful day in the Austrian Alps. In this video I am discussing 7 things that I really dislike or even hate about my Mini Cooper S. I've already made a video about the things that I like or even love about the Mini, so I thought it only fair to make one about the bad aspects of owning a Mini. Just a small disclaimer, these are all my personal opinions about owning a Mini over the course of 4 years. If this is not your experience, then that is fine. This is really just a video of me talking about the things I don't like. Don't take it too seriously. Now, let's go ahead and get started for this video. Number 7 on my list of things I don't like about the Mini are the windscreen wipers. Yes, this is something small, but it is very annoying because the window of the Mini is somewhat curved and the windscreen wipers are not. Especially on the passenger side, the windscreen wiper does not reach the entire length of the window, but not even the entire length of the windscreen wiper, rendering it basically useless, at least for the passenger side. Personally, I find visibility to be one of the most important factors of a car, and this is not really something that gives the Mini plus points. It's not horrible because it's just on the passenger side, so I don't really look out that way, but it is very annoying, especially considering this is kind of an expensive, supposed to be high quality vehicle, but not even the windscreen wiper reaches all the way. Just a small annoyance for me personally. Number 6 on the list of things I don't like about the Mini is the fact that it's really uncomfortable on long driving journeys. Specifically, I am referring to when I drive from Austria to the Netherlands to my grandparents. This is a stretch of 900 kilometers, or maybe a bit less, and it's incredibly uncomfortable to sit in this small, very compact car driving on the German Autobahn or the German motorway at a steady 150 to 160 kilometers per hour. Specifically on the German Autobahn, I feel as though the Mini starts to fly or somewhat take off after certain bumps at a certain speed. Not only is this very uncomfortable and kind of unsafe, but also it does take a lot of concentration for driving. Something that I feel is not quite as big of a concern in a larger car, such as maybe an Audi or some kind of sedan that is a bit heavier. Especially driving past lorries on the motorway can be extremely scary because the wind gust almost feels as if you're driving on a motorcycle, which really pushes you to the side. Again, something that is somewhat unsafe, but just ultimately makes you feel uncomfortable. Added to that, even though the Mini does have seats in the back, they're really not sizable seats, and I wouldn't consider putting an adult in the back, especially not for long driving journeys. So calling this a 4-seater car is taking it a bit far. I really wouldn't do a long journey with this car again. More than 4 or 5 hours is, I think 4 or 5 hours is the maximum that you can sit in this car and not feel an incredible urge to just get out and walk because your butt is broken after 3 or 4 hours, definitely. Number 5 on my list of things that I dislike about the Mini is the bad mileage that it gets. On a good day, in which I am driving super carefully, I might be able to get mileage of 6.6 liters per 100 kilometers, which is not the world's worst mileage for sure, but considering it just weighs 1,200 kilograms, it kind of is bad mileage. And especially if I consider how much I usually really use, my true average is probably closer to 7, maybe a bit more, 7.2 liters per 100 kilometers, and that is really not that great for a vehicle that is meant to be quite good in terms of mileage. I certainly didn't buy the Mini for its good mileage. I did buy it for its sportiness, but it still is something slightly annoying to consider that with a full tank of petrol I can really only go around 550, maximum 600 kilometers, not even. That's really nothing compared to what some modern or even older Volkswagen Golfs or the car of my brother, the Kia Prosport GT, can do. So just something to consider if you buy a Mini. Don't think that just because it's a small car you will have good mileage. That is not true whatsoever. Number 4 on my list of things that I dislike about the Mini is the cramped engine bay. Yes, I'm talking about the tiny space that you get for your engine in the Mini. This engine bay is by far one of the smallest I've ever seen. Working on this engine is one of the worst things ever. When you stick your hand down into that engine bay, it is guaranteed that you will get your hand out looking as if you had a fight with your cats. That's how scratched up it will be. From plastic sticking out, from metal parts sticking out, from really anything, you will get a scratched up hand. And I don't even have big hands, so this is just something that really annoys me and makes working on the engine very uncomfortable. Apart from that though, a cramped engine bay also means that whenever you have to do any kind of, sometimes even services or change any part, you will almost always have to disassemble other parts to be able to reach one part that should not be that difficult to reach. One example of that is the oil filter, but I will discuss that in another point. This narrow space in the engine bay also means that a job that would usually take only half an hour, maybe an hour, will very quickly turn into a 3-hour job because of having to disassemble so many other parts just to be able to reach one part. Number 3 on my list of things that I actually hate about the Mini is the fact that when you buy it originally, it does not have an oil temperature gauge. Yes, you heard that right. A sports car, or what is meant to be a sports car, the Cooper S as well as the JCW, are lacking an oil temperature gauge. Probably one of the most important metrics for sporty vehicles out there, but really any vehicle. Yeah, the oil temperature gauge. It's missing it completely. Even if you connect an OBD reader to your Mini, you will not be able to tell any exact measurement of the oil temperature. This is something I cannot wrap my head around, and it's really annoyed the hell out of me. And because of this, I have had mechanical issues, and I've almost lost my engine if I had not quickly enough reacted when I realized that my oil pressure was getting very low. For this reason, 2 years ago, I got the Prosport 2-in-1 gauge that measures boost pressure as well as any temperature. In my case, it's oil temperature. I have made an entire video about this topic, so if you're interested, go ahead and click somewhere around here. There will be a link to the video discussing this product. Now, moving on to number 2 of the things that I hate about my Mini Cooper S is the position of the oil filter housing. This has to do with the cramped spacing in the engine bay. If you want to do something as simple as an oil service, you must first remove the entire cooling liquid reservoir to be able to reach the oil filter housing and change the oil filter. And even then, it is still a very difficult position to get to, because as you saw maybe in my service video in which I do an oil change, I had to remove all kinds of hoses and such things still just to be able to put it back in. This can very quickly make a 30 or 45-minute job into a 2-hour, maybe even a 3-hour job. This is just an annoyance of the Mini, especially of owning one and trying to service it yourself. And this leads me to the very last point I'm discussing today. Number 1 thing that I hate about my Mini Cooper S is the cheap plastics that are used everywhere. And I mean everywhere. There's plastic parts that are used in the engine bay that should not be used in the engine bay because they are plastic, they break easily, be it because of weather or temperature or whatever. But also, the quality of the plastic is not that great either. The worst part about these cheap plastics is that you will have to replace parts very frequently, and you can't even replace them with better parts because they don't exist. You can only replace them with original, bad quality plastics again. And that's not even the worst part actually, because the worst part is that they're very expensive as well. For instance, there is a plastic part, or rather 2 plastic parts that make the seal between the windscreen and the engine bay, under which there is on one side the battery and on the other side the brake fluid. To reach the battery, there is a little plastic flap, and yes, that thing breaks very quickly. If you open it, I think 10 times, it will break off, and this has happened to me already. And I'm not going to buy this part again because it's just the same quality, it's going to break off again. If you have any solution to this, please let me know because I'm out of ideas. The same goes for the other side of the brake liquid. There is also a flap, but this one is designed a tiny little bit different, And the little clasp that's supposed to close it or hook onto it broke off, not because of me, but because of a garage's doing, and they didn't even tell me about this. So this is another thing to look out for if you have anything done by a garage. They will not even tell you that these things break because they break so easily. Now, I think I have complained about the Mini for long enough. If you feel really bad about owning a Mini or wanting to own a Mini, please go ahead and watch the video in which I talk about 9 things that I love about my Mini, because that will make you feel better. Now, this is the end of the video. I do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.